Today we're talking about one of the strongest control decks this format, Invoked Dogmatika. The goal of this deck is to set up strong negates with the Invoked engine, and to set up strong floodgates with the Shaddoll engine. And facilitating both of these engines, we have the Dogmatika engine. This deck is very heavy on URs and SRs. You need 7 unique URs and about 14 staple URs. Unfortunately, just about all these I fear are necessary for the deck's success. Now, let's put this list into a more viewable format. So, for the Invoked portion of this deck, running 3 Alistair, 2 Magical Meltdown, and 2 Invocation. Magical Meltdown searches Alistair while also providing protection to all your fusion summons. There's a reason this card is semi-limited, as it's preferable to just straight up drawing Alistair. We also run Terraforming to back this up. Alistair the Invoker searches Invocation, as well as being able to discard himself to buff a fusion monster. The second effect helps keep El Shaddoll window from being attacked over. Now, let's look at Invocation. Invocation lets us fusion summon an invoked monster by banishing materials from either player's graveyard or from your field. For Invocation's second effect, Invocation lets you shuffle itself back into your deck to add 1 banished Alistair back to your hand, thus completing the free engine that Invoked are. Also, Invocation will let you fusion summon non-invoked cards if you only use cards from hand. Now, for the Shaddoll portion. Running 3 Shaddoll Fusion. Shaddoll Fusion lets us fusion summon a Shaddoll monster using materials from our deck if our opponent has a monster special summon from the extra deck on their field. Outside of that, it's just the poly for Shaddoll monsters. The Shaddoll monsters we use are 2 Shaddoll Beasts for draws, 2 Shaddoll Hedgehog to add Shadolls from hand for either extending combos, or specifically for the Fire Shaddoll skill. We're running 3 Re-Shaddoll Windy for free special summons from deck, 1 Dragon for spell and trap removal, 1 Shaddoll Genius for an effect negate, and 1 Shaddoll Squamata for having choice in hand or to stutter an effect. The most important card in the Shaddoll portion of this deck is Shaddoll Schism. This is searchable thanks to the card El Shaddoll Alpacone. Schism lets you fusion summon a Shaddoll monster by banishing materials from grave or field. Then you can pop 1 card that has the same attribute as the fusion summoned monster. The Dogmatika engine is very small yet extremely potent, running 1 Nadir Servant because unfortunately it's been limited to 1. This card lets you send 1 monster from your extra deck to the graveyard to search a Dogmatika card. Then you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn. This lets you dump either one of 2 cards, El Shaddoll Opponent to search out Shaddoll Schism, or Titanclad the Ash Dragon to search a Dogmatika monster at the end of the turn. We run 3 Dogmatika Ecclesia the Virtuous, as it is one of the deck's main extenders. Ecclesia special summons herself and can then search another Dogmatika card, but you're locked out of special summoning from the extra deck for the rest of this turn. She can play around her restriction by either activating her effect last in your turn, after you've special summoned monsters from the extra deck, or you can just special summon her and not use her effect to search. That way you can then use her to link climb into something else. Our 3 search targets with Ecclesia's effect are Dogmatika Maximus, Dogmatika Fleur-de-Lis, the Knighted, and Dogmatika Punishment. Maximus lets us dump 2 cards from our deck, but our opponent gets to do the same. This effect is game-winningly strong, but watch out for decks with extra deck monsters with engrave effect. Doing it against decks like Necros, Drytrons, and of course the Mirror Match might be a little risky. Especially, do not use the skill against Cyber Dragons. That's not gonna go well for you. Honestly, I wouldn't run Maximus if Nadir Servant wasn't at 1, but it is what it is. Fleur-de-Lis is a special summon that is a quick effect failure. You can also buff your Dogmatika's attack. Lastly, you can search Punishment to dump a monster from extra deck to grave to pop a monster on the field. This is effective for decks that need a field presence, or we can use Punishment to stop a unique out to our board. We're running 3 Ash and 3 Infinite Impermanents as our hand traps, and we're running Vanity's Emptiness because it just wins most games it comes up in. For our extra deck, we're running El Shaddoll Winda as our main floodgate. She limits special summoning to once a turn and can't be destroyed by an opponent's card effects. We run El Shaddoll Grista to handle pendulums. We run 2 El Shaddoll Construct to combo off and kill, as well as beating over monsters. You run Alpacone for searches and grave. For Invoked, we're running 2 Invoked Mechaba for negates, Invoked Purgatrio for board attacking and OTK pressure, and running Invoked Liga for a backup floodgate. Titanclad is there for searches, Salamangreat Illumirage and Secure Gardna are there for spamming monsters for Invocation. Artemis is there for the same reason, but she let us link someone with herself, so it can be worth it to use this effect instead. Predator Plant Verte Anaconda is there for a backup fusion, and Axis Kotaku is there for generic link OTK pressure. Combos. Let me explain the full combo, alright? Activate Magical Meltdown. Search Alistair. Normal summon Alistair, search Invocation. Link Alistair off into Salamangreat Illumirage. Link Illumirage off into Secure Gardna. Play Invocation, make Mechaba. Use Invocation effect to add Alistair back to hand. Summon Ecclesia. Use Ecclesia effect to search Maximus. Maximus skill dumping Al Capone and Titanclad. Alpacone searching Schisms. Titanclad will later search Fleur-de-Lis at the end of turn. Set Shaddoll Schism, and you can make El Shaddoll Window with other 2 monsters you set the grave. An Omni Negate, a Monster Negate, and a Floodgate. Matchup. Honestly, this deck has great matches with just about every deck outside of Eldritch and Sky Strikers. What's stopping this deck from being the top is the key hits on the Forbidden and Limited list hurt inconsistency. Nadir Servant at 1 and Magical Meltdown to 2, and Terraforming at 1 is not great. That brings us to the deck's meta rating. I rated about an 8 out of 10. This is a bottom meta deck that's behind the top spots, but it's still extremely strong. This deck can make some of the strongest turn 1 boards with its floodgates. The deck can play around hand traps very well, but the hits to its consistency do hurt the deck's potential. This deck can go second inherently well, thanks to main decking large numbers of hand traps, as well as thanks to Shaddoll Fusion. confusion. I'd recommend this deck to anyone who likes the control value playstyle. Now, I'm going to show off some games that highlights this deck's playstyle and potential. thanks for watching. I'm gonna have some more Master Duel content coming up, so I'll see you then. Also, some Vanguard content will be coming up around the release of Set 4.